Hey there, folks. This is Evan, the USRA Engine Entertainment 1992 Productions, and yes, happy 33rd anniversary to Amtrak. And so yeah, as you can see by now, we're doing it exactly. So we're going to be traveling, hauling the Amtrak with a diesel Amtrak diesel helper. So yeah, I think we got a bigger day for all of them. So it, it is. So yeah, the this one day. Hello, Nickel Plate Productions. Okay. Okay. Hello. Well, sort of. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't sound like Darth Vader. So yeah, I'm the real voice, buddy. I'm the USRA engine. Okay. I get. Oh, Dominic's here. Well, it is my mic. Just curious. So, not to worry, I'm fine now. But yeah, Darth Vader is from Star Wars. I'm actually the man, or an engine. Well, sounding like Gordon. Yeah, eventually. Uh, yeah. Wow, good for you, Rope. Yeah, I'm very excited. Well, well, let me go ahead and well, yeah. Well, that's a really a funny bathtub, but it's kind of like a lion now. I would rather see that. Yeah. Oh, cool. You're turning 17. Yeah, in July 17th. Yeah, I'll get there. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to initiate the. Oh, oh, let's see. Hey, Alex. Yeah, yeah, we're celebrating the 53rd anniversary of Amtrak. So, yeah, I believe that is going to be heard. And really cool. That's obviously the real estate. Yeah, let's go take. We'll just watch the initiation. Okay. See how it went. Oh, Andrew Diesel. Yeah, yeah. I believe this is a good time of the. It can be, but yeah, it can be the yeah going to yeah Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay. Well, Amtrak guy, uh, 365. Okay. Um, okay. Well, let's watch something new. Yeah, let's watch something new. Thought. Yeah, let's watch something. Or should I go with? No. Uh, yeah. Well, I'll go with the Amtrak locomotives. Go ahead. Uh, yeah, let's watch, shall we?
Well, well, isn't this just like old times? Let's just say your hour has come again. So wake up. Wake up and smell the ashes.
Huh? Whoa.
No.
Uh, Hello everyone, I'm Amtrak Guy 365, and welcome back to the first edition of... Wait, no, get this bad camcorder audio out of here.
Ah, much better. But, what was this series called? Eggs of Amsterdam? Oh, I gotcha. Welcome to the first remade edition of Engines of Amtrak. In this series, as you may remember, I go over the various types of locomotives Amtrak has used over the years. Today, I'm here to talk about the EMD SDP-40F. But before we get into that, let me give some historical context on American railroads in the late 1960s. The railroads were suffering
dreadfully, and no one cares.
The locomotives being used dated back to the 1940s and even the 30s. Passenger cars were just as old as the locomotives themselves and becoming increasingly empty as Americans turned to the airlines and the growing interstate highway system. Track maintenance was also becoming rare as vegetation reestablished itself along railroad right-of-ways. The condition of many railroads' trackage also limited speeds of both freight and passenger trains. Once grand rail stations were also becoming shells of their former selves or shutting down outright. It wasn't until June 21st in 1970 when Penn Central, who was borderline bankrupt, filed to discontinue 34 of its passenger trains that the US government took matters into their own hands. A few months later, in October, the Rail Passenger Service Act was signed into law. This created the National Railroad Passenger Corporation, or NRPC. It would go under the brand name RailPax until being renamed Amtrak. This was a combination of the words America and track. This new nationalized railroad system, supported by government and state funding, would assume control of intercity passenger trains across the country of railroads who were interested. Railroads could contract out Amtrak to completely take over ownership and operation of their trains starting on May 1st of 1971. Railroads who chose not to join, of which there were 6 out of the 26 who didn't, were required to operate their passenger services until 1975 and go through the Interstate Commerce Commission for any service cancellations or changes. Amtrak was met with much skepticism, with many not expecting it to last long at all. It was assumed the American public would forget about Amtrak and passenger trains altogether. Well, clearly that wasn't the case, as Amtrak began operations on May 1st of 1971 and would use a variety pack of inherited rail equipment with varying degrees of quality. This would be the case up until 1973. Amtrak couldn't rely on their 10 to 20-year-old F&E units anymore, as mechanically, they were just about done for. In November of 1972, Amtrak placed an order for 40 locomotives costing $18 million. Electromotive Division, or EMD, would build what would become known as the SDP-40F. Its mechanical design was based on the SD-40-2 and SDP-40, a passenger variant of the SD-40. EMD didn't want to design an entirely new passenger-exclusive diesel for Amtrak should the company falter. The cowl body was based on the FP-45 and F-45 locomotive used to power the Santa Fe Railway's exclusive Super Chief and El Capitan. This body type was perceived as more aesthetically pleasing when mixed with passenger trains. The units were also built for easy conversion to freight service should Amtrak cease operations, as was a common belief at the time. EMD's new product then went into service for Amtrak beginning in June of 1973. Regarding technical specifications, the SD stood for Special Duty, P for passenger, 40 for Model 40, and F for having a full-width cowl body. The SDP-40F was rated for a top speed of 95 to 103 miles an hour and
Okay, yeah, this AMG, SDP-40F is kind of, well, like the old one, or probably things like that. Okay. Well, as a matter of fact, that's occasionally they have top speeds. Well, 2 steam generators, whatever. I couldn't tell you. Let's continue.
powered by an EMD 645E3 16-cylinder engine producing 3,000 horsepower. The locomotive comes in at a hefty weight of 396,000 pounds. It has a length of 72 feet 4 inches, width of 10 feet 4 inches, and a height of 15 feet and 7 inches. The locomotive came equipped with 2 steam generators at the rear, along with a 1,350 US gallon water tank just ahead of them. This was due to Amtrak's inherited passenger equipment still being steam heated. Lastly, the units came equipped with a Leslie SL4T air horn. Here's a few samples. Initially, Amtrak placed their new locomotives out west exclusively. However, a second batch of SDP-40Fs numbering in at 110, costing $50 million, this brought Amtrak's total number of units to 150. They had the road numbers of 500 to 649. The second order, which went into service in 1974, allowed Amtrak to finally replace their aging F&E units across the country. These later units also had lower profile cooling fans and air horn to accommodate the tighter clearances seen throughout the East Coast. Trains magazine writer J. David Ingalls stated in 1975 that the SDP-40Fs were the stars of Amtrak's long-distance trains. They were slow to get going, but when they were moving, they could really move. Unfortunately, while they may have looked nice, they sure didn't ride nice. Engine crews frequently complained their big locomotives rode roughly compared to the F&E units they previously operated. Some crews even reported being thrown out of their seats. Then came the derailments. This is the one thing that the SDP-40Fs are infamously known for. Between 1974 and 76, Amtrak, EMD, the Association of American Railroads, and the Federal Railroad Administration investigated to search for a cause to their rough riding and continuous derailments. The investigation revealed a number of possible causes. One was the constant lateral or side-to-side movement of water sloshing around in the steam generator's water tank. This would end up causing the locomotive to have more weight on one side than the other and sway and shake as it ran. One of the FRA's investigations figured that harmonic vibrations between the heavyweight SDP-40F and the lightweight passenger or baggage car behind it caused derailments. Hey, Amtrak, Guy365 here. Harmonic vibrations are an oscillating or continuous swaying motion resulting from a given force that can transfer to another object. Think of a simple pendulum. The force from one ball transfers to the others and acts on the other side with the same amount of force. This then repeats. In the case of the SDP-40F, the intense swaying and bouncing motion of the heavy locomotive transferred to the much lighter weight passenger car behind it. That amount of swaying and bouncing movement would cause the cars to jump the tracks. It's like dropping a bowling ball and golf ball from the same height. The golf ball bounces higher due to its light weight. In this case, the locomotive is the bowling ball, and the passenger car is the golf ball. In short, weight distribution between the locomotive and the cars was very uneven. Another FRA investigation made a claim that the hollow bolster HTC trucks were to blame. The last cause, which was much more clear, was rough track conditions. Many, but not all railroads, struggled to keep up and pay for track maintenance during this period. The Santa Fe, for example, didn't have much, if anything, to complain about regarding the big Amtrak units. On the flip side, Burlington Northern, the Chessie system, and Louisville and Nashville experienced major issues with the 40Fs. To combat these problems, Amtrak were slower speeds on curves and modified the locomotive's truck design. While this helped reduce incidents, the units had already created a ruined reputation for themselves. In 1976, the Chessie system had outright banned the units from their tracks, calling them rail breakers. They suspected rails were spread apart from the locomotive's lateral swaying. Amtrak's Empire Builder would then experience a 6-hour increase in travel time as a result of speed restrictions as well. By 1975, the GE P-30CH had entered service to supplement the failing SDP-40Fs, but Amtrak knew they still needed another new locomotive. In turn, the F-40PH was ordered beginning on May 8, 1975. It would soon begin to displace the SDP-40Fs on not only long-distance trains, but shorter inner-city trains as well. The locomotive was further made obsolete as more of Amtrak's then new Amfleet 1 passenger cars went into service outside of the Northeast Corridor in 1976 and 77. They had been expedited into service due to the unusually harsh winter that season, putting much of the steam-heated equipment out of service. These Amfleet cars came equipped with head-end power, or HEP for short. New superliners commonly used out west also featured HEP. In short, the F-40PH came equipped with head-end power, the SDP-40Fs did not. It was clear who the winner was. In 1977, Amtrak traded in 40 of their 40Fs back to EMD. Components from these locomotives, including the prime mover, would be used in a series of F-40s known as the F-40PH-R. R meaning built from SDP-40F parts. In the following years up until 1987, Amtrak traded in a total of 132 units back into EMD for F-40PH-Rs. Also during this time in 1984, Amtrak was experiencing a light engine shortage. In turn, they traded in 18 SDP-40F to the Santa Fe Railway in exchange for 25 CF7s and 18 SSB 1200s. In 1985, the Santa Fe began converting their Amtrak engines for use in freight service. These were designated SDF 40-2. This involved removing the steam generators along with re-gearing them for slower speeds. Other modifications included adding a railing for the narrow front-end platform, adding concrete ballast in place of lost weight from the steam generator and water tank, removal of a nose light, steam generator-related parts.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, that must be the Santa Fe. Yeah. It was used for Santa Fe and Amtrak, but I don't know. Just out of 2 years ago. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Let's continue that way.
Parts being plated over, among other smaller changes. They proved much more reliable, having none of the problems Amtrak did when they owned them. The only issue proved to be the removal of a nose light created glare in the cab during adverse weather conditions, along with mounting and dismounting the unit. The SDF 40-2's front steps were more or less a small vertical ladder rather than steps. This proved especially risky during rolling or on-the-move crew changes. Meanwhile, back on Amtrak, the remaining 40Fs had been reduced to work trains or stored away. The last 9 SDP-40Fs would finally be retired off of Amtrak's roster in 1987. Those not traded into EMD or sold to the Santa Fe were likely scrapped.
Hi, I'm Reness, and a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A chicken strips
in 1987. Those not traded into EMD or sold to the Santa Fe were likely scrapped. Retrospectively, some of those who operated the big diesels think they would have survived longer had the steam heating tech been removed and HEP been implemented. In 1988, the Santa Fe began to remedy some of the lingering problems with their modified units. They re-implemented the nose light to reduce glare in the cab, and later that year they added notches on both sides of the nose. This once again allowed crews to mount the unit and enter through the nose as was preferred. In 1995, after the Burlington Northern Railroad and Santa Fe merged to create Burlington Northern Santa Fe, the SDF 40-2s were renumbered to BNSF specifications. However, the first unit would be retired in 1999 after a low-speed derailment bent the frame and experienced significant body damage. By November 2001, the locomotives began to be put into storage at Kansas City and Barstow for the last time. All units were officially retired on May 2, 2002, and were moved to Topeka, Kansas in August for part harvesting. That fall, scrapping commenced. However, not all is doom and gloom for Amtrak's hefty passenger units. In June 2002, BNSF 6976, formerly Amtrak 644, was pulled out of storage and sent to the National Railway Equipment Shop in Mount Vernon, Illinois. There it was painted up as a display locomotive for the grand opening of Maersk's Pier 400 container terminal at the Port of Los Angeles in August. The scheme was reminiscent of Santa Fe's war bonnet design. The cold and dead unit was moved around by NS 3329, which was also decked out in Maersk colors. 6976 made one last public appearance at the opening of BNSF's Logistics Park Intermodal Facility in Joliet, Illinois on October 14, 2002. The unit was then once again moved to storage in Topeka with an uncertain fate. However, the Northwest Railway Museum acquired the locomotive in November 2003, numbered it back to its original road number of 644, and moved it to Portland, Oregon. There it would be repainted with unlicensed Maersk colors. 644 would be designated for Daylight Locomotives and Machine Works Incorporated, or DLMX, and saw service on the Portland and Western Railroad throughout the mid to late 2000s and early 2010s. It would then be kept at storage in Portland. In January of 2014, Dynamic Rail Preservation, or Dyna-Rail, moved the 644 to Ogden Union Station in Ogden, Utah. Tagging along was ex-Amtrak F40 PHR number 231. The 644 was now lettered for DYRX and was intended to be restored to its original Amtrak appearance. 644 and 231 then sat stagnant for several years until January of 2019. Dyna-Rail, in conjunction with the Nevada State Railroad Museum in Carson City, moved the engines to the museum to be restored to operation. In June 2019, 644 was renumbered back to 6976 to honor its BNSF heritage. In late 2019, the unit ran under its own power once more, with more successful tests continuing into early 2020. However, 644 isn't alone. Two other SDP-40Fs seem to still exist, with those being 169 and 218. These became EMD test units in the early 80s, but not much information is available on them. Apart from this Google Maps imagery located at the Transportation Technology Center in Pueblo, Colorado, I haven't been able to find much info or photos regarding their current whereabouts. It's said that they're currently heavily modified testbed units operating at the TTC in Pueblo. Well, that's quite a positive ending to such an infamous and ill-fated locomotive. While not the most successful locomotive, it still has plenty of fans out there and was definitely able to leave its mark and impact on the history book of Amtrak, the National Railroad Passenger Corporation. Thanks for watching this remade version of Engines of Amtrak, the SDP-40F episode. As you may know, the original was taken down for copyright reasons, but regardless of that, Engines of Amtrak is back in business.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
I hope you all enjoy, and stay tuned for next time when I discuss the EMD F59 PHI. Thank you again for watching.
Well, there you have it. Special thanks to Amtrak Guide 365. Yeah. Pretty obviously by now. Yeah, pretty obviously. We talked about the Amtrak's North Corridor, and that's the North Corridor is right on the special issues. But that is a really, really cool thing. Well, let's see the Amtrak Auto Train. Yeah.
If you look around,
Yeah. Oh. Hey. Oh, the Amtrak auto train's moving slow to the east. Okay. Yeah, I'm watching the Amtrak auto train going to the front.
Do on the laptop.
Okay. Who's back going? Carrying an auto train. What's so funny?
Excuse me.
Oh. Oh wow. Why are you going slow?
Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, we have a video of this taking cities. We're carrying freight train. Well, there we go. Yeah. Well, there we go. Well, that's a really long one. Let's see how it goes and what's going ever. But anyway. Well, anyway, let's see how it goes. Now, shall we watch? Yeah, let's watch the F-59 PHI, shall we?
Recordings.
Stupid ads.
Hey everyone, Amtrak Guy 365 here. On this edition of Engines of Amtrak, I'll be taking a look at the EMD F-59 PHI. Something I originally wasn't going to cover, but after many requests to do it, and my own change of mind, let's get right into it. For years now, the F-59 PHI has been a staple of Amtrak's system on the West Coast. Not only that, but they found busy work on several other passenger railroads across the United States and Canada. Their iconic wedge shape and three-window design give them a unique identity of their own. However, though, they didn't just appear out of nowhere with no basis whatsoever. There's a bit of backstory. So, let's travel back to the year 1988.
Whoa!
The Commuter Railroad Government of Ontario Transit, better known as GO Transit, had been using a selection of aging diesel locomotives on their commuter services, those of which were the GP40TC, F40PH, and the FP7 dating back to the early 1950s. After GO officials argued a strong case for a 3,000 horsepower passenger locomotive powered by a 12-cylinder 710 G3 engine, that of which had an independent HEP engine generator set housed in a full cowl car body with a CN-style comfort cab. With that said, the F-59PH was rolled out of the London, Ontario shops in May of 1988. Its technical design took influence from EMD's 1985 freight diesel, the GP59. Essentially, the F-59PH was a GP59 with an HEP generator, full-width cowl body, and a three-window Canadian comfort cab. It worked out fairly well for GO Transit, with a handful of locomotives remaining in service today as of 2020. In 2010, 4 units were sold to the North Carolina Department of Transportation for use on the jointly Amtrak and NC DOT operated Piedmont service, where they remain today. Fast forward a couple years after Go debuted the F-59PH to 1990 in California. The state had initiated a plan to provide $3 billion towards the state's transportation department, Caltrans. A large sum of this money went to rail transportation. Part of this plan included expanded state-funding Amtrak services featuring new locomotives. Before this plan, Amtrak's San Joaquin and Capital trains have been using standard Amtrak equipment like F-40PHs, Dash 8s, Am Fleets, and Horizons, and was merely branded as Amtrak California based on the name alone. This brand, which was used by Caltrans, didn't have an identity of its own either, as it used standard Amtrak colors. While looking for a new locomotive, Amtrak wasn't too impressed by the F-59PH initially due to its lack of streamlining, which to them would easily affect fuel consumption, speed, and modernity. With that said though, Amtrak decided to take on the F-59PH in a different way, through streamlining that is. EMD and Amtrak worked together to create the F-59PHI in 1994. With technical specs in mind, the F stands for full-width cowl body, 59 denoting the series number, P for having passenger gearing, H for being equipped with head-end power, and I standing for having an isolated or quiet cab. The unit is rated for a top speed of 110 miles an hour, being powered by an EMD 12-cylinder 710G engine producing 3,000 horsepower. It weighs in at 270,000 pounds and has a length of 58 feet 7 inches, width of 10 feet 7 inches, and a height of 15 feet 7 inches. Compared to the F-59PH, the new units have a more rounded roof compared to its predecessor, along with having streamlined skirting around the fuel tank to make it much more aerodynamic. The nose and cab, which are the most notable differences, are rounded out and the nose is detachable, being made of fiberglass. This was to make derailment repairs much easier and protect the crew. Amtrak's F-59PHIs come equipped with a Nathan K5LA air horn. Here's a few samples. The PHI's technical concept would soon be adapted for the 5 feet 3 inch gauge 201 class locomotive used in Ireland. Back in the US, the very first F-59PHI, CDTX number 2001, went into service for Amtrak California on September 26, 1994. 8 other locomotives would subsequently go into service. One of the most notable differences for these units was their color scheme. Amtrak, to distinguish the state-funded Amtrak California, decked the units out in navy blue, orange, yellow, and black. This was a sharp departure from Amtrak's current scheme at the time, being Phase 4. The F-59PHI was notable in the sense of being the first locomotive to meet California's strict emission standards as well. The next year, in 1995, Amtrak California received their new bi-level commuter-based passenger cars known as California cars in colors to match the new brand identity. 2 years later, in 1998, Amtrak received 16 more F-59PHIs, 5 for the newly branded Amtrak Cascade service, and 11 for the all-new Pacific Surfliner brand. Both orders would go into service that same year. NC DOT would acquire 2 PHIs in 1998 as well. At first, Amtrak's new order F-59 PHIs outside of the Cascade service that were colored using Amtrak's deep blue, platinum mist, white, and black colors were placed on the San Diegan. This color change was derived from a 1998 order of bi-level passenger cars for use on the train. On June 1, 2000, Amtrak renamed the train to the Pacific Surfliner, running between San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Luis Obispo, with the new Surfliner passenger cars going into service that year. However, the following year in 2001, EMD delisted the F-59 PHI from their catalog as it was no longer able to meet Tier 1 emission standards set by the EPA. The total number of units built ceased at 83. Amtrak had a total of 36 units. Numbers 450 to 465 were painted for the Pacific Surfliner, with 465 being moved to the Cascade service in 2001, 465 to 470 for the Cascade service, and 2001 to 2015 for Amtrak California. Some of Caltrans' F-59s even have names given to them by the crews. In following years, the locomotive made its mark on the west coast of America and Canada, shuttling passengers across scenic and urban areas alike. 2009, though, saw Caltrans's F-59 PHIs being repowered with a 710 Eco engine to meet Tier 2 emission standards. But as with all locomotives, there comes a time to be replaced. In May 2017, Siemens' then brand new SC-44 Charger was tested on the Capital Corridor in San Joaquin trains. Following these tests up, the Charger was placed into revenue service on the Cascades in California.
Well, look at that. It's a part of a future generator, or should I say, it's a future generation of the Amtrak. Well, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's continue.
Caltrans's routes later that year. On the Pacific Surfliner, revenue charger service began in late 2018.
That's it. Just keep going.
Okay.
Continue. Just continue.
Yeah, thank you.
But what exactly happened to the F-59 PHIs? Amtrak's units found a second career in America's rail capital, Chicago, Illinois. Between October and December 2018, commuter railroad Metra acquired 21 ex-Amtrak units, a mixture of which were from the Surfliner and Cascades routes. These would be renumbered to 73 to 93 and painted in a temporary scheme. In August 2019, Metra began painting their units into their lightning bolt scheme. With that said, Metra's Amtrak units now work alongside ex-Go Transit F-59 BHs. As for Amtrak California or Caltrans's units, along with NCDOT, they remain in regular service on their respective services as of June 2020. Amtrak has managed to hold on to a handful of their units, even after 26 years in service. The PHIs have become a staple and icon of Pacific Coast Amtrak train travel, and to this day, they still continue to leave their mark in the history book of Amtrak, the National Railroad Passenger Corporation. Thanks for watching this episode of Engines of Amtrak.
Oh my God.
I'm glad I was able to get the community involved with this episode featuring many of your own photos and videos, so I'm very appreciative for all the help there. Anyway, stay tuned for next time when I rediscuss the GE P30CH. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you again for watching.
Well, a special, again, it's a special thanks to Amtrak Guide 365, if that's necessarily. Well, anyway, what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's pretty much awesome and cool.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, it's especially we do some places ready. Well, yeah. Let's see if we can go any further.
Oh, I see. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that thing is going to be a great talented. And this is one of them. Well, I guess this is a tree. Well, to be honest with you, yeah, we have a good thing and we shall pay much to it. Okay, let's watch the F40PH, shall we?
Hey everyone, Amtrak Guy 365 here, and today on this edition of Engines of Amtrak, I'll be discussing the EMD F40PH. The F40PH needs almost no introduction, being one of the most famous and popular diesel locomotives in the United States. But to understand how it gained such a fan base and how some units are still running nearly 45 years later is what I'll be explaining today. To do that, we must go back to the year 1975. Amtrak's current fleet of inherited F and E units, the SDP-40F, along with the new P-30CH, started to show reliability problems. On top of this, they weren't equipped with head-end power, or HEP for short. This created a predicament for Amtrak as their new replacement fleet of Amfleet coaches were being rolled out into service and were electrically powered by HEP. Amtrak went to EMD, who had already won a deal to build Amtrak a long-distance steam-heated engine, that being the SDP-40F, and a second, faster and shorter distance HEP-equipped locomotive. With that in place, EMD went back to their famous roots with a brand new F-Series locomotive. This would become known as the EMD F40PH. Dean Ellsworth was Amtrak's manager of the locomotive department and created the specifications required by the railroad. Its design was based off the successful EMD GP40-2 freight diesel, the main similarity being the engine, which was an EMD 645E3. While passenger variants of the GP40 like the GP40TC and GP40P already existed, they weren't built for long-distance or corridor service like Amtrak needed. Regarding technical specifications, the F stands for full-width cowl body, the 40 for the model series, P for passenger gearing, and H for being equipped with head-end power. They're rated for a top speed of 103 miles per hour, being powered by an EMD 645E3 16-cylinder engine producing between 3,000 and 3,200 horsepower. They weigh in at 260,000 pounds. The F40 comes in at a length of 56 feet 2 inches, a width of 10 feet 7 inches, and a height of 15 feet 7.5 inches. They're equipped with head-end power using a Delco 500 to 800 kilowatt generator. Amtrak's F40PHs came equipped with either a Nathan K5LA or P5 series air horn. Here's a few samples. In May of 1975, Amtrak placed an order for 30 F40PHs, being numbered 200 to 229. These units were initially rated for 3,000 horsepower, whereas later units would be equipped with 3,200 horsepower. Regardless, these new F40s were planned for service on the San Diegan, as well as unelectrified portions of the Northeast Corridor between New Haven, Connecticut, and Boston, Massachusetts. The SDP-40Fs and P-30CHs would meanwhile continue long-distance service. The F40s would then be rolled out into service beginning April 9, 1976. However, two events eventually triggered a change in Amtrak's thought process. First was the sharply declining reliability, quality, and derailment issues of the SDP-40F, which you can learn about in Engines of Amtrak SDP-40F. Second was the extreme winter of 1976 to 77, which suspended many of Amtrak's routes and older steam-heated passenger equipment. Luckily, though, the F40s were available and put through their paces, pulling Amfleet-equipped trains as the new coaches were quickly put on the rails. At the end of the winter season in 1977, Amtrak had a new plan. They adopted the F40PH as their new long-term locomotive power for all trains and began work with EMD to put this plan into action. The first step was trading in 40 SDP-40Fs to EMD in exchange for 132 F40PHRs numbered 230 to 361. These were F40s built using SDP-40F components like air compressors, electrical components, and they featured a larger fuel tank. Amtrak had realized the F40 was a do-it-all locomotive being suited for almost any kind of service required, whether it be long-distance trains through the mountains or fast-running corridor trains on flatlands. Other railroads like the Regional Transportation Authority, later known as Metra, the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, Go Transit, Via Rail, among other groups, took notice of the F40's success and ordered their own units throughout the late 1970s and early 80s. By this point for Amtrak, the F40PH had become the poster boy for advertising and being heralded as
you're back.
Advertised. By this point for Amtrak, the F40
Look at that hand. Look at that. What the crap? Well, that conductor is that kind of funny looking. All right. Let's continue.
I know. Why does it look like?
All right, let's continue.
40PH had become the poster boy for advertising and being heralded as the modern and prestigious diesel locomotive of the system.
Next time you're planning to fly somewhere, consider going with a carrier who has spent the last 7.5 years rebuilding its entire fleet. A fleet that now offers you some of the newest, most technologically advanced equipment in the world. Not surprisingly, it's also among the most comfortable. Next time, see what a thrill it is to fly on a train.
All aboard! All aboard! All aboard!
Kinder Chocolate. Let that kid flag fly.
Sorry, party's canceled. Wait.
Stupid ADS.
Additionally, the F-40PH would be featured in several movies and other media, further cementing its notability and being the icon of Amtrak.
Like some sort of a couch.
The F-40s would affectionately be nicknamed Screamer by cruise and rail fans, as to supply electricity and climate control to the coaches, the prime mover would constantly need to run at 900 RPM, thus creating a deafening roaring noise. By April 1990, Amtrak had amassed a fleet of 215 F-40 locomotives after a purchase of 6 from Go Transit. Amtrak's units numbered 200 to 415 and eventually replaced the entire SDP-40F and P-30CH fleet. Other railroads like Via Rail had managed to replace an especially old fleet of locomotives, with their variant being the F-40PH-2D. This version had desktop controls, ditch lights, and other Canadian-specific details. Furthermore, operators like Metra had a custom cab variant known as the F40PHM-2, MBTA with the lengthened F40PH-2C, and New Jersey Transit using the F40PH-2 CAT, named for its Caterpillar-built head-end power generator. Amtrak's units, despite 4 now being retired, were still providing excellent service across their system. As a matter of fact, Trains magazine estimated the average unit traveled 175,000 miles per year. Railroads like Norfolk Southern even began leasing out Amtrak F40s for freight runs during power shortages as well. On the flip side, though, many of Amtrak's units were around 15 years old, and Amtrak had begun thinking of yet another long-term replacement engine in the late 1980s into 1990. They wanted a more fuel-efficient, lightweight, do-it-all locomotive that could also provide third rail support in tunnels out east. This would culminate in the General Electric AMD 103, better known as the P40DC, or simply Genesis. They were 25% more powerful than the F40 with 4,000 horsepower, were 22% more fuel efficient than the F40, and had a single-shell body design known as monocoque for a more streamlined aerodynamic appearance. On top of this, Genesis was a fully computerized locomotive, allowing it to maintain stable operations in the case of overheating, low oil pressure, and other situations. This also helped in the reliability department. Another note was Genesis was 14 inches shorter in height, allowing for ease of operation on the Northeast Corridor's antiquated clearances. Essentially, 2 Genesis locomotives could do the work of 3 F40s, thus reducing operating costs. Clearly, Genesis was the better choice for Amtrak. In short, Genesis does what EM don't. That's a Sega Genesis Nintendo console war joke.
Let's say I'm working on a research paper about the future of renewable.
Before Genesis was put to work, GE had developed the P32-8 BWH as a stopgap measure until the P40DC was ready. In doing that, the F40s and P32s spent a good amount of time working together. Eventually, though, the P40 was rolled into service beginning in 1993, and the F40 replacement process soon began. However, rather than scrapping all of their surplus F40 PHs, Amtrak decided in 1996 up to 2007 to convert 21 units into non-powered control units, or NPCU for short. This involved removing the prime mover, traction motors, alternators, among other parts, and installed a roll-up door on the side for baggage car service. A functional control stand was left in place, though, to allow for push-pull operations. The NPCUs earned
Okay.
themselves the nickname Cabbage, a combination of the words cab and baggage. The first unit to get this treatment was number 368, now
Whoa.
numbered 90368. Despite this, some F-40s continued service in the Northeast on trains like the Maple Leaf up until around the summer of 2002.
Maple
This
Leaf.
would finally
Wow.
mark the end of common
My
revenue
favorite.
runs for Amtrak's EMD F-40PH. Even with the F-40PH retired, holstering 26 years of service as powered units, many Amtrak F-40s still exist in some kind of service, whether that be as an NPCU on corridor trains or even in revenue service, rebuilt on other railroads as far as Canada and Panama. F-40PH number 406 notably retained its original road number and lacked a roll-up baggage door even when converted to an NPCU in 2011. After that, it was used on Amtrak's touring exhibit train. Finally, it resumed NPCU life on the Downeaster, but as of October 2020, is in the Albany, New York shops for upgrades. Regardless of individual thoughts and opinions on the F-40, its legacy and impact is undeniable. From getting Amtrak out of a power rut in the 1970s, to proving itself as one of America's most successful passenger locomotives still in revenue service today. It cemented itself as the flagship locomotive for Amtrak, became an internet meme throughout the mid to late 2000s.
Whoa.
Successful passenger locomotive still in revenue service today.
Oh,
it
yes,
cemented itself
it
as
is.
the flagship locomotive for Amtrak, became an
Whoa.
internet
Look at that monster Amtrak. Oh, that's looking funny. Yeah, this thing is a strange thing. Yeah, it's
internet meme throughout the mid to late 2000s. Internet meme throughout the mid to late 2000s.
Look at that. They're dancing on that Amtrak. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Let's continue. Yeah.
And to this day is revered as a fan favorite locomotive amongst many rail fans, including myself. I mean, my icon clearly shows that, you know what I'm saying? As recent as October 2020, F-40PHR number 281 was powered up for excursions for the first time in 5 years at the California State Railroad Museum, retaining its original Phase 3 colors. Number 231 is also being restored by Dynamic Rail Preservation.
Yeah.
While other F-40s haven't been as lucky, with many being scrapped or held in storage yards for parts, an overwhelming majority are still around today. Amtrak's F-40s witnessed nearly all of the railroad's paint schemes and have outlived much of the railroad's roster. Railroads like Metra, MBTA, Via Rail, among many others, all greatly continue the F-40 legacy, providing their units with consistent upgrades and maintenance, all to much success. The F-40 series has mastered 44 years of service as of 2020, and it certainly seems like there's more to come. The EMD F-40PH will always remain and is still part of the history book of Amtrak, the National Railroad Passenger Corporation. Thanks for watching this remade episode of Engines of Amtrak. Thanks a ton as usual to everyone who submitted videos and pictures to use in this video as well too. Anyway, stay tuned and join me next time when I discuss the EMD F69 PHAC and its life running with the German ICE high-speed train set. Thanks again, and I'll see you all in another video.
Well, for the final time, special thanks to Amtrak Guy 365. Well, okay, let's stop there. I'm going to end this stream right now. But folks, thanks. I hope you had a great day. Have a great day. Oh, excuse me. What am I saying? Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Well, be sure to tune in again for the next excited. Well, so I'm gonna have to end the stream. I will see you guys. I'm gonna see you guys later. Okay.